Welcome everybody to another tactical review live stream. So I am going to go ahead and tell you guys that we are getting some snow in the Midwest. It's not that heavy right now. It is slick out there though, so if you've got to be out on the roads and you're in this snow, obviously be safe. It's kind of common sense, but we all know that that's a little bit of a misnomer. Anyway, if we start having frame drops and stuff, there's a chance that it's due to the snow. There's also a chance that my handy dandy YouTube moderator has decided that he or she does not like freedom. Greetings, handy dandy YouTube moderator. So we will give folks a few minutes to start coming in and look forward to getting into our discussions tonight. Go ahead and say hi when you jump in the chat. Make sure if you need to catch my attention to tag me. That's at Tactical Review. You get keyboard tab completion on the good old computer. If you're watching on mobile, you do have to type out the whole username, but it should still flag in orange for me. So, Armed Ape. Hey, yeah, you kind of are first, Armed Ape. Brownies, how you doing? And like I said, I know that we've got some regulars who deal with snow removal and stuff, so if you guys are out there and listening, absolutely keep your eyes on plowing, and I know you're here in spirit. And if you catch this on the review, know that we were thinking of you. Hi Ninja, welcome. Yeah. Actually, guys, I was first. I mean, you can look at the timestamp. I was first by about 10 minutes, so kind of cheating, but, you know, it is what it is. All right. I feel like I have a lot that I want to cover tonight, but by the same token, when I look at the stuff laid out, I feel like maybe I don't have a lot to cover. That said, I think everything that I'm looking at here tonight has a copy date within the last couple of days. Hunting and fishing, welcome. George Washington. George, I'm sorry for what we've done to your country, man. We're trying to get back to where we need to be. Anyway, so we may dig through. I know that there's been a lot that's happened this week, and again, everything I've got today is really recent. So yeah, so let's get into it. I don't know which one of these I want to start with. So I'm going to start with, yeah, get back to your state and get it sorted. Actually, that's where we're going to start. As you guys know, Virginia House Bill 961 did in fact pass Virginia House of Delegates, and I want to apologize. I'm surprised nobody called me out on it across these last couple of months. I've been saying House of Representatives. Theirs is technically a House of Delegates. I will try to amend my ways. I'm sure that functionally it's the same thing. Oh yeah, I like this coffee mug. Black Rifle Coffee needs to run another one of those Mug Mania, and I'll grab another couple bags of coffee and get another free mug. Anyway, and tonight, if you're curious, I'm drinking my Brown Bear blend, which is half AK-47 espresso and half silencer smooth. I really like how those play together. Anyway, back to the miserable news. House Bill 961, which is their assault weapons ban, magazine capacity ban, suppressor ban. I don't even remember what all's in this mess. But it has passed the House and has now gone to the Senate for a vote. It will outlaw manufacture of prohibited items inside the Commonwealth, or I will probably say state a few times. Yeah, I know they're not the same, but for my purposes, I'm going to make them interchangeable. I'm good at being wrong. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. So anyway, It also makes possession of magazines of larger than 12 rounds punishable by up to 1 year in prison. Now, I'd like to know where they came up with 12 rounds. In most states it's 10 rounds, and where did we get 12 rounds? If anybody knows, say something in the chat, because that seems like a really arbitrary number. Anyway, this would affect the vast majority of handguns. And I should have pulled up the verbiage of the bill. I know it was terrible. I anticipated it would pass the House of Delegates anyway. And but I think that it mentions things like muzzle brakes and compensators and obviously magazine capacity, and so that's going to fall into the realm of a lot of handguns. And I'm not just talking, AR pistols and AK pistols. I love the fact that those exist, but I'm talking about legitimate handguns. And that magazine ban is 1 year per magazine that they're facing for jail time, and obviously mandatory confiscation. Everytown for Gun Safety is very happy about the passage. Obviously, the Brady campaign is cheered by the heartening embrace of common sense politics. If it was common sense, why are the government officials not leading the charge by disarming the police departments and disbanding their armed security? Anyway, Virginians, if this does go through, if it passes the Senate, we'll touch on that here in a second. You would have until January of 2021 to comply. I recommend not complying. Mass non-compliance is a good thing. Vanessa Kitty, howdy. Mark 18 is here, and I will check in on those comments in just a moment, but I want to say hi to you guys as you come in, because sometimes I miss you. The bill, House Bill 961, has gone to the Virginia Senate. The Virginia Senate has passed 5 gun control bills this session, which obviously we know are going to be signed by the House and then signed by Governor Northam. That said, State Senator Linwood Lewis, I can't read, who is a Democrat, has already said that he will not support a new ban. And there are 3 other Democrat senators who have criticized previous iterations of an assault weapon ban. So if any of those 3 and Lewis vote it down, 961 will die in the Senate. So with that in mind, something I meant to have up and don't have up, and if I can't find it quickly, I may see if one of you guys will go and jump on it. But right here, Firearms Policy Coalition posted yesterday on their Instagram that there's an easy URL you guys can go to: VA Gun Control Fight, all one word, VAGunControlFight.com, and you guys can head over there and get some more information for reaching out to senators that is necessary to stop this mess. Obviously, I don't know, I think it's good for people all across the country to let these Virginia lawmakers know that we don't support what they're doing, but certainly if you live in Virginia, and certainly I don't have names of those 3 Democrats. I think that's all at VAGunControlFight.com. If you're in one of their districts, you've got to reach out to them and let them know that you don't support this infringement. Okay, real quick, we're gonna jump on some comments. Mark 18 just got 4 of the Ronin P11 red dot sights, and they're awesome. All right, I know I had the P10. I thought it was pretty cool. I checking Instagram the other day, and I had a notification that Ronin Tactical has started following me after I reviewed their P10. So thought that was pretty nifty. Ronin P11. Let's say I don't remember which one the P11 is. Yeah, it didn't come up. I'll look at that later. And Mark 18, not concerning yourself with any gun legislation, pass anything they want, don't comply. I don't disagree with that sentiment. I think that we still have to do our due diligence to try to go through things the way that the country was built. And actually, hey, I'll tell you what. That's a good segue. Today in Ammo Land News, today in the newsletter that I get emailed, it was yesterday. This is going to be backwards for you guys. I should flip my camera. That's what I should do. It's going to confuse me, but I've tried to hold things up to the camera too many times, and I've had problems. So, guys, this may be a little disconcerting. And it's certainly going to play with my head, but there we go. Now when I hold things up, you'll be able to read them. So anyway, Virginia, an open letter to Chairman Patrick A. Hope and Vice Chairman David L. Belova. So it's a couple pages long. I think 4 pages printed at this big font. I'm going to go ahead and just read it verbatim because I will not be able to sum this up. I won't be able to do it justice. So, P11, all one-piece construction with 50,000 hour battery life and shake awake. Okay, what kind of reticle does that have? Because the P10 also has the 50,000 hour battery life and shake to wake. But the P11 may just be an upgraded unit. Okay. Chairman Delegate Hope and Vice Chairman Delegate Bourne. I attended last Friday's House Public Safety Committee's hearing on House Bill 961, Governor Northam's Scary Gun magazine and accessories ban. And I was disgusted by your management of the hearing in your respective capacities as chair and vice chair. In the audience on either side of me were people that traveled several hours to attend that hearing. One gentleman was a business owner from a rural community who knew all too well that reliance on law enforcement to protect him is preposterous. The other was a retired officer of the Inspector General who said that law enforcement recognizes that the best deterrence to crime isn't more law enforcement, but an armed population. As a forensic psychiatrist, I know that psychiatrists are the medical specialists that are most likely to be victims of homicide. We each have unique reasons to be armed, and because of that, we are willing to apply our time, talents, and treasure to the preservation of our rights. Even with its current amendments, this bill turns the 3 of us into felons overnight for the possession of standard capacity magazines and heavily federally regulated suppressors that we purchased as law-abiding citizens for lawful purposes. It shouldn't surprise either of you that just proposing this bill is morally repugnant to us, especially when your party voted down both Project Ceasefire and bills calling for increased penalties for criminals who commit rape at gunpoint. Your party put its sights on us, insulted victims, and gave criminals a free pass. Adding to our outrage were the incredible lies told during that hearing. One doesn't need to be a lawyer to understand that the Heller decision protected our right to keep weapons in common use. The items this bill bans are all in common use. Vice Chairman, as a former member of the Attorney General's staff, were you unable to correct Delegate Levine when he said that the Supreme Court of the United States upheld these bans? What stopped you from pointing out that the federal circuit courts that have ignored Heller are lower courts, and that the Supreme Court has yet not ruled on these bans? You allowed Delegate Levine to continue the buffoonery he began when he pantomimed his laughably mistaken ideas for what constitutes an assault weapon, by allowing him the additional opportunity to display his ignorance of our courts. Further, Vice Chairman, when you said that these weapons and magazines were made for the military and should only be present on battlefields, were you aware that the Capitol Police present at the hearing were carrying Sig Sauer P320 pistols with 16-round magazines plus one in the chamber? Are the Capitol Police intending to wage war? And are they planning on turning the Capitol grounds into a battlefield? Now that your party has made the Pocahontas building a gun-free zone, even for those of us with concealed handgun permits, why do they continue to need military-grade firepower to keep the peace? If these magazines are so intrinsically dangerous, why should the Capitol Police have them at all? Chairman, given the historic significance of this bill, it is shocking that it wasn't first heard in a subcommittee, and it was completely unacceptable that only 6 minutes were allowed for public dissent. It was plainly obvious to you that the dissenters outnumbered the supporters many times over. The just and decent thing to do, prior to turning those dissenters into felons, would have been to at least let them speak. We came to change hearts and minds, but we recognize that most of the committee members arrived with orders from the governor, who in turn appears to be taking orders from an out-of-state billionaire. At the very least, we came to bear witness to our process of government and hope to leave assured that it continues to function as our founders intended. What you presided over was a deliberate affront to the 400 years of history of our assembly. You should have been prepared to listen all day and all night, if necessary, to ensure that every voice was heard. How great is the urgency to eliminate our rights that you couldn't be bothered to listen to us speak. Had the two of you allowed those in attendance to speak, I doubt anyone in the audience would have said anything disruptive at the hearing's conclusion. It is regrettable that they spoke out at the end, because it is as plain as day that you baited them into doing that. What makes their disruption most regrettable, however, is that this monstrous bill has the fight of its life ahead of it. You rushed House Bill 961 through because you didn't have the support you needed previously to get this to the Senate, and you are running out of time before next week's crossover. It is likely to be further modified by the House. Even if the Senate committee that receives it lets it pass, it is unlikely to pass the Senate. It certainly won't pass unscathed, and so it will have to survive the wranglings of a conference committee. At each juncture, the few sane liberals in your party will have the opportunity to listen to their constituents and kill this bill. Although you wouldn't pause to let us speak, we haven't stopped exercising our rights. Background checks for gun purchases doubled in the Commonwealth last month, and ammunition sales in Deep Blue Arlington are up 339% compared to 1 year ago. Do you think those Arlingtonians are only filling 10-round magazines? This bill and its progenitor, Senate Bill 16, in turn, gave birth to the Second Amendment sanctuary movement in Virginia. These bills mobilized many thousands who could not stand politics to become involved because, to their amazement, rather than focusing on criminals, you chose to focus on them and their rights. I can assure you and every member of the Assembly that we will not... I'm missing a line here, something. The Second Amendment, our Commonwealth's Constitution, the facts of civilian gun usage, and the Heller decision are on our side, not yours. When Secretary Morgan greeted Philip Van Cleve, president of the Virginia Citizens Defense League, and me at the NRA's January January 13th, lobby day. He said that he'd see us again on the floor of the assembly. I replied that we'd see him in court. The High Court of the nation appears to be ready to restore the rights that have been wrongfully infringed upon by those of you who target the law-abiding and give aid to criminals. There is no shortage of your constituents that would happily be the plaintiff in blank versus Commonwealth of Virginia to set this right. Respectfully yours, Dennis Petroselli, MD. I've reached out to Dr. Petroselli after I read this morning in or on AmmoLand News, and I informed him that I was planning to read this evening, and asked if he had anything further he would like to share with fellow patriots across the country. His response was, no matter where gun owners live, it is crucial for them to realize that it is no longer enough to simply vote. If they want to keep their rights, it's up to them, not any organization, to take action, starting at the local level, and to be relentless about it. And then he said, effectively engaging in politics is a learnable skill, and he recommended a site for learning. I have not vetted this site, but I am going to paste it because I asked if Dr. Petroselli had anything to say, and that's what he had to say. All right. It was wordy. It was well written. If I'm smart, and I occasionally claim to be, I will share this, because I still have this up. I will share the link to that letter there on AmmoLand News. And oh my goodness, that was quite the link. I apologize, I didn't clean that up. All right, go back over here to the... all right, Mark 18 says that the P11 is a 2MOA dot. I'm going to guess then that the P11 is simply an upgrade to the P10, because that's the size of the dot in that one as well. Poor Conservative, welcome. Thanks for joining. And that does catch me up on the comments. So yeah, very grateful to Dr. Petroselli for that letter, for the bravery it takes to stand. Sometimes I know we feel like we're standing alone, and it helps to remember that there are like-minded patriots all around who are looking these battles the same way that we are. So, all right, there's Virginia. Where do we want to go next? I kind of want to end on a high note, so I'm going to keep going through the messy, crappy stuff, and we're going to look at some garbage going on in Maryland. I don't know if I have anybody watching from Maryland right now. If I do, give a shout out. And as always, guys, I don't think, it looks like we mostly are seeing familiar faces in here, familiar names. But if you're a YouTube creator, especially if you're a pro-gun YouTube creator, I'm not going to discriminate against anybody here, but we've got to stick together as fellow patriots. So feel free, just post a thing, say, hey, I make YouTube videos, or I'm on Instagram. You can give your Instagram or Facebook handle. And obviously, if somebody's making YouTube videos, you can click their name and go to their YouTube channel from there, and make sure that you subscribe to their channel. Speaking of, we're in the countdown now. I'm in the countdown. Only, I think 34 subscribers until our giveaway. So I've actually got to get to town and go pick up that dump tray. I've already paid for it. It's ready. So, yeah, Ninja, we've got to stand together strong. Yeah. C above middle C. Okay, that's a music reference, I'm sure. C above middle C. I don't remember what I said, though. Okay, in Maryland, these are upcoming bills. Okay. They have 2 bills that deal with so-called untraceable firearms or ghost guns. They criminalize the possession. House Bill 910 and Senate Bill 958 in Maryland. Criminalize the possession of any privately made firearm or a firearm that doesn't have a serial number, exempting firearms that are pre-1968. At which point, that's when everything had to have a unique serial number and etc., etc. So, a high note. I do remember saying that. Okay. Wanted to end on a high note, you reckon? Maybe if I paid attention to what I was saying, this whole stream would make more sense, right? Okay. Anyway. The bills would also prohibit making any more... So you can't own a firearm that was privately made that doesn't have a serial number. And it prohibits making any more firearms on your own, including with a 3D printer. And it criminalizing distributing the software for making of 3D printable arms. Now, what do they mean by software? That's stupidly ambiguous, because that could, if it's worded ambiguously enough, simply having the drivers on your computer, that's the software that would allow you to print anything to a 3D printer. Anyway, House Bill 910 is being heard on 226 in the Judiciary Committee, and Senate Bill 958 is being heard on March 3rd in the judicial proceedings. So, Maryland gun owners, House Bill 910, Senate Bill 958, nay. House Bill 1261 is a one-feature test. It's an assault weapon ban, and it's a one-feature test, including 30 caliber ARs. There's a grandfather clause that requires registration. Registration is a forerunner to confiscation. Don't believe me? Read your history. Read history books from before we decided that we were going to revise all of it. Cost of this is ridiculous. The cost of registration is $290. I'm guessing per firearm. If you register this year, it will continue to increase until it reaches $1,000 per firearm. That's more than an NFA tax stamp. And then sales and transfers are prohibited. This one's neat. House Bill 1257. Firearm dealers have new requirements, including maintaining audio and video recordings of all transactions for up to a year. That can be potentially multiple terabytes of data. Actually, if it doesn't specify certain bit rates and certain resolutions, I would absolutely, if I was a firearms dealer, store that stuff at the highest compression of like MP3, set at something like a 60 kbps sample rate and super potato quality video, and when they couldn't identify anybody, be like, oh no, I'm maintaining it as per the law. Safe storage requirement, House Bill 636 and Senate Bill 646. They're written in such a way that if a minor could get access to a loaded or unloaded firearm in your home, you're criminally liable. So you show me the gun safe that is absolutely impossible to crack, and that's the one you have to buy and keep even your defensive firearms in there. That's stupid. They're going to require courses for permit to wear, carry, or transport. So now I absolutely support taking training courses. You guys all know that. You don't know what you know until you've tested it. That said, requiring a permit is constitutionally, or requiring a permit, but requiring classes is constitutionally repugnant. If all of a sudden I'm in fear for my life today and I can't get a permit until I've taken a class, I hope my family sues the crap out of a government that requires that if I'm killed tomorrow. Anyway, this issue was from Maryland Shall Issue, which is a civil defense. I think it's sort of like the VCDL. Yeah, there we go. Makes as much sense as a 12-round magazine. Yes. You know, I guess a lot of the single-stack pistols have 12-round magazines. Maybe that's what they think everybody needs to carry. Anyway, Maryland Shall Issue does have a link to view all of the upcoming proposed gun control legislation. Hopefully I've typed this correctly. So there you go. If that looks like it did not turn clickable, it didn't. So you guys can copy and paste that, tinyurl.com/guns2020 if you want more information. And they've got the hearing dates for everything. So at this point, I don't remember seeing anybody shout out that they are from Maryland since I've started doing live streams. But there we have it. This may end up catching somebody's eye just because I have Maryland in the description. And then a piece of good news before I bring it back to my home state of Indiana. And this is something, I hope this passes from a moral standpoint. I wanted to recommend this to my state representatives, and I wanted this to happen in Indiana first. But I'll take it anywhere because setting precedent is good as well. Wyoming is looking to repeal gun-free zones. So Bill SF0088 would eliminate most gun-free zones. Relevant portions of the bill: persons lawfully carrying concealed weapons in Wyoming under WS may carry a concealed weapon in the following places: any meeting of a governmental entity, any meeting of the legislature or a committee thereof. Persons lawfully carrying concealed weapons may conceal the weapon in the following places: any public school, public college, or university, or professional athletic event, except as provided in WS 21-3-132, and I'll cover that here in a minute. Any public elementary or secondary school facility, except provided in the same. Any public college or university facility. And then that ordinance that I referenced, the WS 21-3-132, generally prohibits the carry of firearms in K-12 schools unless the school board allows the practice. So, ideally, this Senate File 0088 will carry through, and then if you're in Wyoming, you need to start lobbying your local school board to allow common citizens to carry, and ta-da. So this was introduced last year as Senate Bill 75, And so hopefully last year, Senators Reynolds John Cost, Republic District 19, Michael von Flattern, Republican District 24, and Lilsa Anselmi Dalton, Democrat District 12, were the 3 votes in the Judiciary Committee which defeated the bill. So, if you live in Wyoming, there you go. Senators Cost from District 19, Senator von Flattern from District 24, and Senator Anselmi Dalton from District 12 need to go bye-bye. Execute your power at the ballot box. So, awesome stuff. Repeal gun-free zones. Absolutely. The evidence shows that an armed society is a polite society. I grew up hearing my dad say, just give everyone a gun. You'll know who the bad guys are. And maybe it's because I grew up hearing that. Maybe it's because I can look at the news stories and apply a modicum of common sense. Maybe it's a combination of all of the above. But I fully agree with that sentiment. Maybe not give everybody a gun. That's communism. But absolutely, the bad guys are going to be the ones who draw first and end up with the most holes. God willing, the innocent people in the area don't suffer from that. But I actually just saw a news story today. I don't remember where I saw it. That's the problem. But somebody went in and they thought they were going to hold up this convenience store, and every customer in there was carrying, and they all drew, and they all put a hole in this guy or gal or whatever. All right, I'm not for wholesale violence, but if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And given all the stuff that's behind me right now, maybe that seems a little bit asinine for me to say, but there's a difference between seeking violence and being prepared to defend your own. And you guys know that. I'm preaching to the choir here, and I understand that. But that's absolutely true. I will very happily close my eyes in death, having never had to violently defend myself and my family. The flip side is, I'm 200% willing to put my life on the line that they may continue. So, yeah, Ninja, that was the wrong store. I wonder, seriously, makes me wonder what the last thought was. Just like, how did I go so wrong? Why did I get out of bed today? Something like that. I don't know. Okay. And actually, while we're in that vein, we're going to come back here to I was thinking country roads take me home. Come back here to Indiana, where we had a news story about State Representative Jim Lucas, who was meeting with a group of children from... Give me a second. Pages are sticking together. Voodoo. I don't remember. And it's not in this printout. Having multiple sources is great. Not printing out all of those sources means you lose information. So, right, Mark 18. Guys, if you're not looking in the chat, Mark 18 nailed it. If you're not using your weapons to prosper yourself, you're not living by the sword. you're not taking through force. Very good. Well said. And to any potential tyrants who would happen to stumble across this video, you need to keep that in mind as well. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So anyway, State Representative Lucas was answering a question for a student who asked him about a bill that would allow teachers to receive firearms training, as well as allow for retired law enforcement officers to lawfully carry on school property. And so far as I understand, that bill did pass, as I remember seeing something about it. And Lucas responded to the question supporting the legislation and pointed out that the Supreme Court has stated that law enforcement has no duty to protect individuals, even, and I quote, children who are being slaughtered. So then the student asked a follow-up question: do you believe the more guns that are being carried, including in this room, would make my classmates and I safer? Lucas immediately said absolutely, and then said that he was carrying at that moment. Third house, that's what it was. I knew it was in here. So anyway, I thought that was really awesome. And Representative Lucas, you're not my district representative, but good on you. You're one of the good ones. We want to keep more like you in there. And that decision, by the way, the Supreme Court ruling was in 2005. It was in Castle Rock versus Gonzalez. And they determined that law enforcement officers have no legal requirement to put themselves in harm's way for you or your family. Now, once again, I argue that they absolutely have a moral responsibility to put themselves in harm's way, or they need to simply find a different means for providing income. If you don't want to be in harm's way, perhaps get into a department where maybe forensics, you're going to be less in harm's way there, still doing police work. But yeah. Anyway, this article goes on to say that unfortunately many Americans would simply prefer to pretend that if we ban guns, there'd be no reason to carry a firearm for self-defense, because bad guys would be disarmed right alongside America's 100 million gun owners. I'm sure it's a comforting thought, but it's simply untrue. And all you have to do is look at the crime rates in the 2 American cities that did have a handgun ban to see that criminals will find a way to illegally obtain and possess firearms, while good people are denied their rights, which is where good people need to be willing to become bad people, not flagrantly, but just as Mark 18 said, shall not comply. Yeah, ninja, to protect and serve, they must forget that part. And I really feel like that if a department still has the motto to protect and serve on their cruisers, that should be legally binding. If they don't have the legal responsibility to protect, then that needs to be removed from their vehicles, because that's false advertisement. I mean, guys, I think the national average, guys and gals, Vanessa, I saw you were in here. I think that the national average is something like 10 minutes. The national average at the low side is 10 minutes to respond to for law enforcement to respond. Conversely, the average, I'm going to take it to the extreme here. The average active shooter situation is over in 3 to 6 minutes. Everybody will be bleeding out for 4 to 7 minutes before the first responding officer is on site. It's a hard truth. And it's not the corollary to that is, contrary to the lies perpetrated by the mainstream media, you have a 1 in 11.6, nearly 11.7 million chance of being a victim of an active shooter. But once again, it's not that the odds are so high, it's that the stakes are so high. Quote me on it, use it yourself, pretend it's yours and use it. That's the facts. Because your odds are next to nothing until your reality becomes 100%. And just like I don't advocate carrying on an empty chamber, because I really think that carrying on an empty chamber and telling yourself you'll have time to rack the slide is just like telling yourself you'll have time to put on your seatbelt before you need it in a car accident. I know where that worked one time. I have a friend. I'm very lucky to still have one of my friends, and I have a friend who's very lucky that he was able to see what was getting ready to happen and click a seatbelt. So it's not that we're playing short odds. It's that if the short odds turn against us, or long odds, I don't remember how odds work. Anyway, it's not that it's such a likely occurrence. But if it does occur, you're going to what? Hide for the duration and hope that you're still around to give a report? And Mark 18, that's a good point. And I'd be interested to see the statistics that you're absolutely more likely to lose a life to law enforcement than any other way. I would think that a car accident would be higher, but I won't argue that either because, and that's why I know that a lot of guys in the 2A community have become very anti-cop. And I think that's a sad thing. And I confess that I've personally known nothing but good cops. Not that they've never done any wrong, obviously. Let he who is without sin cast that first stone. But that they are legitimately pro 2A, that they legitimately have recommended people, protect yourself. And so I would challenge anybody who is very anti-cop. We don't want anybody profiling us. So let's judge each man and each woman on his or her own merits. Across the board. Now, we saw a whole mess of Virginia State Troopers who have already shown what their true colors are. I don't care what color their uniform is. Every one of those state troopers who disbanded the dissenters when House Bill 961 passed in Virginia, they're all redcoats. They've shown the color of their clothes. Absolutely judge them by that action. So, and Mark 18, that's absolutely your right. And perhaps it's also because I live in the county where my law enforcement is headed by an elected representative who, at this point, my biggest complaint is that he doesn't see the need for 2A sanctuary. But his reasoning is so good, it's so commonsensical that that's why it doesn't work. He He took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And the Second Amendment is part thereof. And so there's no need for a sanctuary in his eyes, because that's the law of the land. That's what he swore to uphold. I absolutely applaud that. He's also absolutely incorrect, as we see nationwide. But that's where I live, and I get that my situation is not the same as everybody else's. So anyway, you can accuse me of having boot polish on my breath if you like. And as we roll right around to an hour here, honestly, that was the extent of what I had. Actually, the one other thing I was going to look at was that I found some of the verbiage. If you guys remember back to, it might have even been my very first live stream, I had Elias of the Liberty Review podcast on with me, and we were talking about red flag laws. And he had mentioned that Indiana had an actually particularly heinous red flag law. And then on one of the Facebook groups I'm in the other day, somebody was asking, who all lives in a state that has a red flag law on the books. And I happened to come across the Indiana State Police PowerPoint on our monstrosity of a red flag law. And I'm just gonna, I didn't pull the slides, it's disgusting. Overall, Indiana is very gun friendly, but this red flag law is, it includes a warrantless seizures, and yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it at all, Sam. I am. Guys, from what I've seen, experience, law enforcement has adopted an us against them mentality. And like I said, I don't want to keep going back to that, and I think that a lot of them have. And then it's being reinforced then with a lot of people in the 2A community who are then also adopting an us against them mentality. And yeah, they are the ones who would be called upon to enforce unconstitutional laws, or to exercise officer discretion and say, I'm not going to enforce that. So it becomes ugly. I actually asked one of our county deputies, I said, okay, if I was joking around. I said, if they ever tell you need to come to my house, I lost everything in a boating accident. And I kind of laughed, and he just looked at me and said, I'm not going to anybody's house. That's how you get shot. So even if it's for the wrong reason, it's the right attitude. But anyway, yeah, I'd kind of like to get off of that, because I know that there's contention there, even within the pro 2A community, about how to handle that. And I'm about building bridges, because we need to stand together or swing separately. That's why I recommend supporting the VCDL, because they're in an active fight right now, even if you're not from Virginia. That's part of the reason that instead of just doing any old dump tray, I opted for our giveaway to do a Boogaloo dump tray, and said go ahead and put that donation on there. So yeah, if you're in Indiana, go ahead and check out the Indiana Civil Defense League. They I was just on their page and now I've lost it. I'll find it. Don't you guys worry. There we go. Facebook.com/ there you go. That mess right there. If you're in Indiana, or if you live close to Indiana and you just kind of want to keep abreast of what's going on, because obviously the ICDL is keeping an eye on what's happening nationwide. Make sure that you are following your own states, various, whatever they call it. In Maryland's, it was, well, I linked you guys there to Maryland's. It's called something different there. But, yeah, make sure you're doing that. Pro 2A groups. I recommend Firearms Policy Coalition, Second Amendment Foundation, and Gun Owners of America. So, once again, if you sign up to Gun Owners as a lifetime member, you get a snazzy book, or I got a snazzy book. I assume you will get a snazzy book as well. And stickers, everybody loves stickers. Plus, even if you're not a member of those organizations, you might bookmark Gun Owners of America, which is gunowners.org, I think. Those links are always in the description of my videos, so I guess, I mean, you can click the description and go through there. And Firearms Policy Coalition, they have pages set up that have national gun law news, so you can stay abreast, get as much advance warning as possible in your own state. Again, I don't disagree that the rumblings of civil unrest are all around. If we can do it with the ballot box instead of the bullet box, I would be just as happy. So, yeah, oh, hey, Brastard, when did you get here? Even cops that say they won't confiscate guns already do enforce unconstitutional gun confiscation when they take guns from felons. And that's one of those situations. Of course, that's what in that open letter that I threw on the floor, excuse me. There it is. Because I had to look that up. In the open letter from the good doctor to the less good delegates, he mentioned that they had the Democrats had voted down Project Ceasefire and bills calling for increased penalties for folks who commit armed sexual assault. So I looked up what Project Ceasefire is, and it's actually, basically, it imposes the maximum penalty if somebody actually commits a crime with a weapon. That's novel. But why would we want to, actually prosecute the people who commit the crimes when we can prosecute everybody else instead? So, anyway, so back to what Brastard was saying. The thing is how do I say this? Because there are things that fall into the realm of felony that are non-violent crimes. And I absolutely don't understand removing somebody's ability to protect themselves for things such as, if somebody has assaulted somebody with a deadly weapon, has actually... See, but the problem... Sorry guys, I'm arguing with myself right here. Yeah, you guys are getting one of those glimpses into my fractured mind. So on the one hand, if somebody actually has been a violent piece of crap, I would rather them not be armed. On the other hand, with the number of false imprisonments that have happened over the years, how are we guaranteeing that somebody is actually the violent piece of crap that they have been convicted to be? And then on the third arm that I need to grow from the depths of Chernobyl, how about we convict law enforcement who have actually committed violent crimes? That shield means that one is to be a peacekeeper. It's to be a public service position. And you are simply, see, what that badge, what that shield traditionally has meant is that you are a regular civilian, a guy like me, a guy like everybody that's over in my chat section, everybody who leaves a comment, and you're saying, I am willing to stand in the gap, to serve you guys, to protect you guys. And we have people who use it as an entitlement. And those are the ones that these guys, yeah, those are the bad cops. I don't know. Jeremy Wilson, how you doing, man? Good to see you here. Could be a bar fight at 21 that got someone convicted of a violent felony and they haven't been in trouble. Braster, there needs to be, yeah, and those are the stupid things that somebody doesn't deserve to live with that stigma the rest of their life. That they don't deserve to lose their right to keep and bear arms. So, and I don't know. In conclusion, an armed society is a polite society. The answer is for more people to arm themselves. Because then, even if we let felons, they get out and we say, all right, you've served the maximum sentence, you should be rehabilitated, you can go about your life. And if they decide that they haven't been rehabilitated, then they get holes. Enough said. La Quinta Inn, wait, La Quinta Inn, Mesa, Arizona. Our justice system was a joke before the red flag and all these bans, and now it's just plain ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. And that's the other thing. We've now got so many laws on the books that those who have been tasked with enforcing them just don't know. And I think it was Poor Conservative who said, and the ambiguity is there on purpose, right there. It's how they control all facets, because when it's ambiguous, then they just err on the side of caution and screw our rights. I get that. And those are the kind of reasons that traditionally I have been apolitical except for voting. Because that strikes me as stupidity. That's not ignorance, that's malicious stupidity. And it bothers me. It makes me angry. It gets my blood pressure up. And so I didn't want to deal with it. And then the problem is that with enough years of that happening, with enough years of apathy, because so many of us don't want to deal with the stupidity, don't want to wade into the swamp, we have slowly but surely lost our rights. They've been chipped away and chipped away and chipped away. When I tell students in this day and age that when I was in kindergarten, it was still a thing where somebody would have their dad bring in their hunting rifle for show and tell, it blows kids' minds. And you know what we didn't have? School shootings. Or not like we have now. Again, they're not as common as the media would make them out to be, but they were absolutely less common when I was a kid. And then we passed the Safe School Zone Act in the 90s, and criminals figured out that the only people safe there is them. All right. And then Brastard saying the cop there in Mesa, Arizona didn't even go to jail. And that's the problem. So if you're a law enforcement officer who happens to come across this, before you get mad at me or mad at these guys, maybe make sure that you're stepping up and you're doing your part to police the other guys in your department. Because you're all just citizens. You know, on the one hand, I'm glad for every good guy who's still allowed to carry a gun at a school or at places like that. On the other hand, maybe if you guys weren't allowed to carry everywhere, you would understand why we are so aggravated by the laws. I don't know. Bastard, we had a road cop running crazy in my town about a decade ago. Well, that's crazy. Yeah, Jeremy Wilson. Never were school shootings when his grandparents were allowed to show up to school with shotguns. I think my generation is the first generation where by the time I got to high school, it wasn't a thing all during hunting season for people to have their hunting rifles and their hunting shotguns like in just regular racks in the back window of their trucks. When I was growing up, my dad had a gun rack in his back window of his pickup. Now, a lot of times he had a 4-foot level there, but yeah, it was just, that was a thing. That was a thing you did. Yeah. Mark 18, here's the thing. You're making good arguments. So, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong. Because you're not wrong. That officers have to quit turning a blind eye. They have to police themselves. Because it's like it's their job or something. You know, this good old boys club, that's exactly what's wrong. Like all levels. That's why Congress is so corrupt. It's this good old boys club. It's this big country club that you get in and you never leave until you freaking look like the crypt keeper. You know, and seeing that it was a sheriff's deputy, Brastard, bothers me even more. Because the sheriff is an elected official. And a sheriff who won't take care of weeding out bad deputies shouldn't have been reelected. 2A, I don't know. I will say though that the last 2 weeks my live streams have been more stable, and I really expected them to be absolutely blitzed by the snow. So be safe out there, 2A. You've been releasing so much stuff. I'm actually behind on your videos, but good stuff. I'm gonna have to get myself an SDS imports, by the way. Mark 18 was a corrections officer for a while and had to play the game or get out. Well, my brother-in-law, he's now a jailer, which our local jail is run by the sheriff's department, so he's an employee of the sheriff's department. And he was a Marine, did 2 tours in Iraq, and he was getting on one of the local town's police forces, and they're really clicked up there. And what happens is, the way it works around here, I don't know. When you're hired by a police department, you start like doing some pre-study. The department has to send you to the academy, but as soon as you're hired, you have arrest rights for a year. I don't know. Anyway, and the department he got on with, instead of sending new cadets immediately to academy, they would have them stay around for a little while and see if they were going to be one of the good old boys. And my brother-in-law wasn't having it, so he got let go. But that's another story. Oh, was he from here? He'd go around saying this was his town and very threatening. Ooh. Brastard, with that experience, I cannot say... Again, I don't necessarily blame anybody who has anti-police feelings, because I'm going to assume that it's from experiences that have led them to be that way. My experience has been that the police I know, I've gone to church with them, and they're the kind of guys who are like, buy a gun, buy 2, protect yourself. By the time I get there, I'm probably just going to be documenting what happened. I'd rather be able to talk to you than to catalog your body. So that's where I come from. I've mentioned that a lot. I understand that. So 2A's back at the shop. Okay. Grab some salt. Classic on the same page with the Hakeem. I actually didn't even sign up for the Hakeem giveaway. Actually, I haven't signed up for the last couple of classic firearms giveaways. I just got discouraged. I don't know. I bought a couple of mags. I've got a classic firearm sticker, but... Alright. What do you guys want to talk about that's not law enforcement related? So, I can tell you... Video this week. Hang on, let me unplug this without breaking anything. Involves that. So I was really surprised in the difference between those versus that in my HLX. So definitely I've got to finish editing that, but if the flashlight thing was tripping your trigger, definitely make sure to catch this next video. Hoping to get some ammunition soon and finally quit talking about beating up that Palmetto State and actually do it. So you guys go so bad and power hungry that even his coworkers called in. Yeah, Jeremy. Like I said, everybody, if they don't know one, they know somebody who knows a cop who is just power hungry. There's an old saying, and it's absolutely true: power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Why we need term limits. Hey, look, we're talking about the Senate again, or the national legislator again. Heck, you don't even need to look at law enforcement. Anybody who's gone to college knows somebody who is absolutely awesome to hang out with until they became an RA or an RD, and then they were just absolutely jerks. So they got a little bit of power, and that was that. Ooh, I was told not to do that. I have to make noise when I think, or my brain starts working. Wait. He said you can take the abuse, so just shoot it and enjoy it. Save it. Well, I've got one for SHTF, and the PSA was I got it to be a torture tester, and I'm going to enjoy beating it up. And I really firmly believe, here's what's going to happen. All right, if you guys, I will go ahead and in this live stream, I will make some predictions, and then I will reiterate those predictions again. It will finally be so gummed up that it doesn't want to function even with some additional lubrication through the ejection port, probably somewhere between 7,000 and 9,500 rounds. If it's that may be off by a little bit by virtue of the fact that I'm using steel case in it, maybe. If it fails before that, it is going to be something relatively minor for the flat range, like a broken extractor or something jacking up on the bolt. Now, on a two-way range, that's absolutely terrifying. But on the flat range, it's relatively minor, especially with a lifetime warranty. So there's my prediction. I'm not going to be doing enough mag dumps that I feel like the gas tube is going to be a weak point unless I just got a bad gas tube. So I'm excited, actually. Mod 18, I'm Mark 18. Good grief! I'm really excited to do this. Just to a feather in the hat of Palmetto State. And speaking of which, did anybody else see the Battlefield Vegas results on the Palmetto State GF3? It hit well over 17 or several hundred rounds, over 17,000 rounds at full auto fire before they started getting keyholes. And one of the lockup lugs, it looks like the left-hand side lug, maybe, it was well worn, but it was the rifle was still in headspace, and the tail of the bolt carrier looked like it was pretty mushroomed, but it was still functioning. Battlefield Vegas pulled it out of service because they got 6 keyholes out of a single magazine. So there you guys go. I'd really like to see them test both a PSAK-E with the FN chrome line barrel and a PSA GF4, which has a Palmetto State in-house chrome line barrel. Because I know that chrome lining is supposed to stand up better under full auto. I'd be interested to see how that goes. So anyway, keep one extra complete bolt carrier group. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm actually thinking about, because I have the Magpul MOE grip on, I think on all of my ARs. If not, I need to get that. And I'm thinking about just getting a spare bolt and then wrapping it in tissue paper so it doesn't rattle in there, and just keeping a spare bolt in the pistol grip. The thought being, I don't want it rattling if the crap ever does hit the fan and I've got to be making movements with it, but it's right there. You could theoretically get behind cover and swap out a bolt in battlefield conditions. Do I have any combat vets in the chat right now? I don't think I do. I'd be interested to get their take on that. I work with a couple of combat vets. I might ask them tomorrow if we don't get snowed out. And 2A keeps an AK as spare parts for all the ARs. Yeah, that's one thing. The modularity, though, in an AR. Think about it. Okay, worst case scenario, you're in battle. Okay, that's already a really bad case scenario. And your buddy gets RPG'd. And it just destroys the way it hits, it destroys the whole back end of his rifle. And you're firing, and terrible noise, and no extraction, and your extractor is broken, or you had a lug shear off on your bolt. His rifle, the back end of it's ruined. It's not going to work. But if that bolt's still good, you can swap out either the whole bolt carrier really quickly, or if something happened to the tail of the bolt carrier, you could swap that bolt. Where obviously with the AK, the bolt has to be matched up to the trunnion so that you know that you've got headspace. I mean, Stoner was just a genius. On the other hand, the AK is 10 years older in design and is still being fielded by modern militaries. So, yeah, there's a reason I've got both of them. They're both cool guns. All right. So, well, guys, I don't have anything else pressing. I'm sure that there's other things I needed to cover. Like I said, I ended up with 5 news stories from the last 2 days, and that swamped me down. So, if you're not following the channel on social media, that username is up on screen. And I do share things such as this, the occasional meme. The last meme I shared got really great response. So probably also put me on an extra half dozen watch lists. So I'm okay with that. Add me to more of them. Anyway, so go ahead and follow the channel over on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to keep up with things like that, do try to also share deals. If you guys didn't see, I mentioned about 10 minutes before I went live, Palmetto State Armory right now is running deals on the Vortex Strikefire 2 Prism Red Dot, and I think they're selling that for around $130. And the Holosun HS507, which is what I have riding the slide on my EDC pistol. I won't swear to the price on that. I think it's just north of $200, around $230. So if you're needing an optic, either for a long gun or a handgun, Palmetto State Armory right now has great deals. If you let your, well, the problem, Jeremy, I had to cut it last night because I was waking up and the back of my hair was sticking out to about there, and I've also got like a cowlick here and a cowlick here. Maybe I don't anymore because I don't have a hairline there, but Palmetto State also has OEM G2C mags for $20. There you guys go. I'm a huge proponent of OEM mags only for EDC, especially for Glock. Matter of fact, for Glock, that's all I have purchased to date. Mag pulls don't necessarily drop free, although sometimes the OEM mags, the double stack OEM mags, don't want to drop free either. And every other brands of Glock mag that I've seen has been a dumpster fire, but your mileage may vary. You do you. I just search for deals. The last time I picked up 17 round mags or the Glock 17 mags, I got them for $16 and change a piece shipped because I bought several and waited until I found a great deal. So anyway, point I think it's wrong they're trying to ban AR-15s for older folks due to arthritis and all. There's no recoil, wasn't. Oh, Jeremy, that's, ever back up. Joe Double Barrel Shotgun Biden doesn't seem to understand that a shotgun, in many situations, if you're using a round that will stop the threat, which is our job and our goal as self-defenders, that it's also very likely to over-penetrate a soft target. And it probably won't penetrate a target that happens to be wearing armor. Conversely, my AR-15 is very likely to penetrate all but level 4 armor, and it's going to make them reconsider what they think they're doing in my house, even if they're wearing level 4 armor, A. But B, will not typically over-penetrate a soft target that's not wearing armor because of the ammunition I'm using. So, yeah. 2A, be safe out there, stay warm. Flush fit mag for the G2C or the flush fit base plate. Oh, that's a good idea, Mark 18. Double out steel wool, polished sticky mags. And again, see you 2A, be safe. If we don't talk before, I plan to be in the live chat on Friday, unless you're not having it with it being Valentine's Day and need to spend some time with your sweetie. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, if you are able, while we're working towards a sign-off here, if you're able to help support the channel at all, even $1 a month, you can do that over at patreon.com/tacticalreview. You guys all know shooting is an expensive hobby, so if you can help out the channel at all, that would be amazing. If not, just share the video. It looks like everybody who's here is giving me a thumbs up, but if you haven't, give me a thumbs up, share the channel, share the videos. That will all help immensely to grow the channel. And keep in mind, another 34 or 35 subs and we're having our 250 sub giveaway. So there is potentially something in it for you. Guys, once again, if you are a creator, shout out your channel. 2AEDU is headed out. If you're not subbed to him, feel free to click his name and go to his channel and subscribe to his channel as well. I know Jeremy was making videos. I know Jeremy has had a tragedy in his family recently, so I'm sure he's been away from it since then. But give him a sub. Who else has been in here? Brastard is a content creator. Poor Conservative, Vanessa Kitty, Armed Ape, I think. Guys, I'm not going to get everybody. So if you are a content creator and you're still in here, once again, shout out your own channel. I fully think that we need to support each other. We need to be subscribing to each other and sharing each other's content. Number one, all of us are going to have a different perspective. We're all going to have different things that we can put on our channels. We're going to bring something different to it. And we're going to show YouTube that we are an active, passionate community. Because we're all headed towards being deplatformed otherwise. And that may happen regardless, which is a good opportunity to remind everybody, if you're not following me on Gunstreamer, you might want to consider doing that. My YouTube channel is mirrored automatically to Gunstreamer. Even my live streams, usually by the next morning, are over there. I also have a BitChute channel. YouTube mirroring is not as successful there, and I've not been faithful in following up and getting things uploaded when they don't mirror. That's something, when I have some time off from work, that's one of my projects. So, but Gunstreamer and BitChute, I'm on both of those platforms as well. Okay, Jeremy, I missed your new video, so I'm going to have to go check that out. So, guys, thanks so much for watching, though. Thanks for this first year of support. I'm coming up, I think it was next month that I started my channel, and just a couple months away from the anniversary of my first video. So I'm really excited about that. I'm amazed at the support that my videos and my channel have seen. You guys are awesome. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So
Until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.